Hi, I'm Craig Jellick, and today I wanted to give you a quick overview of the new features we've added in the 0.12 release of Obot MCP Gateway. You can see here the major new features include the introduction of the auditor and owner roles, some improvements to our admin dashboard for better operations, Okta group support when creating access control rules, customizable remote MCP server connections, expanded power user capabilities, and improvements to our Helm chart. We'll be going through all of those now. The first I want to share with you is the update to our RBAC and role paradigm. So we've now introduced this new auditor role as well as the owner role. Here you can see I'm logged in as the owner, but we have a couple other users I've logged in as. One is an admin and one is a basic user. So what is the auditor role? The auditor role now separates out who is able to see the personal and private information contained in chat threads and the tool calls and responses of MCP servers. Now you need to explicitly have the auditor role to see those things. Admins will be able to come in and still administer the system, but they just won't be able to see the details of those calls. Even owners can't see the details of MCP tool calls and responses. They would have to explicitly give themselves the auditor role to do so, just so they don't accidentally see anything they shouldn't. So you can see here, I'm able to add the auditor role to an existing admin or even a basic user. And if I added it to a basic user, that user would basically have a read-only view of the entire admin console. Update here, we get a warning, and then we do that. And you see now this user has the admin and auditor role. Now, I don't have the auditor role, so let's just go check this thing out in action. If we come to the audit logs and let's filter down to just a tool calls here to make it easy to find. And I make this tool call, you'll see all the details here are hidden, and it's telling me that I would need an auditor role to see those. If I had the auditor role, you would actually see the details. Similarly here in chat threads, if I come here, these are no longer clickable. If I had the auditor role, I'd be able to click in and access these threads in order to see exactly what was going on. This is important for enterprise users who want administrators to be able to work on the whole system, but not be able to see the details of these calls. Okay, next we'll talk about the admin dashboard upgrades. We introduced this from our own usage, just seeing that we wanted an easier way to operate on servers in bulk. So if I jump over here, the primary changes are on the MCP server screen. So first of all, you'll see here we have bulk operations for registry entries. Now I can't select or edit any of these ones because they're managed by our official catalog, which is managed by GitOps. That's this registry source here. But if we come back here and just filter down to the selectable items, you can see I have a bunch of items here that I've created and I want to clean them up. So I'll just select these in bulk and we can delete them. Previously, this would be a bit more of a tedious process, but now it happens quickly. The next thing I want to show is the deployments and connections screen. So this screen lets you see the individual deployments of servers that have come from catalog entries, whether those are connections to remote servers or deployments of single user servers or even multi-user servers. So from here, I can kind of get an overview of what's going on. The blue rows indicate an upgrade is available for the server. So an upgrade happens when the registry entry changes. So for example, if we push a new version of the AntV chart to our registry, we won't just automatically deploy that for every user in the system. We let administrators come in here and decide when and how they want to roll out those updates. Same thing here, you can see bulk actions. We can restart servers, we can upgrade servers, or we can even delete them. These bulk actions really make it a lot easier to operate the system. Okay, next, Okta group support. So we've had group support for other auth providers in the past, but this is just rounding out the story and doing it for Okta. In this environment right here, I don't have Okta enabled, but just to express the feature here, you can see I'm creating an access control rule, and we'll say all devs in the Obot platform org. So this environment is configured with GitHub. When I go to add a user or group, you can see the GitHub organizations that I'm a part of here, or I can search for different ones. Here I'll just add Obot platform, and then we can add servers. Let's just add everything in the global entry, confirm and save. And now we have that entry. So same thing, this feature extended to Okta just means that if you've configured your enterprise edition of Obot to use Okta as the auth provider, you'd be able to add any Okta groups here to support the access control rules for our MCP server catalogs. Okay, jumping back here to customizable remote MCP server connections. We'll just jump here. Sorry, I'll jump over to this one. And I'll show this in action. We actually use this feature for our Tavily search entry. And what it comes down to is this section here. So the Tavily MCP server is a remote server, but it wants a user to supply their Tavily API key as a authorization header. Of course, how do you do that in a way that is simple and easy for the user to understand? That's where this feature comes in. So when creating the entry, this one is grayed out because it was created via GitOps and you can't change it in our system. But when creating the entry, you can say, I want to add a header and I want the value for that header to be user supplied. And then you can give a name description to it. So if I jump over to this screen, you can see where I add it here. We'll just search for Tavily and I'll click it and we'll say connect to server, and you can see it prompts me for the API key. And once I were to add that and launch it behind the scenes, it would add that as a header to the calls to the remote server. Okay, next we have expanded power user capabilities. I'll jump over to this screen for that. This one's pretty simple. We introduce power users, and power users are able to actually deploy MCP servers. So if you go to chat.obot.ai, you can deploy your own MCP server there, either for your own personal use or for other folks to use. And with that, what we rolled out in this release is just the ability for these users to see usage and audit logs for their specific servers. So admins can see usage and audit logs across all servers. Power users can see them for just their servers. And this plays nicely with the new audit log feature in that power users will never be able to see the details of the details of an MCP server request or response. They'll just see the metadata. Okay, and finally, I'll just talk about our Helm chart enhancements. We've just added the ability for when you're deploying that Obot Helm chart, you can set affinity, tolerations, node selectors, things that just make it easier for you to control the deployment of Obot itself. In our next release, we'll be allowing administrators to set those same policies for the MCP servers that Obot is deploying and managing. So that way you'll be able to control exactly where and how your servers are deployed. That does it for this update. Thanks for joining me. Please try it out, and I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks.